Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei Extras. Today we're doing an event review of Block Wars Chaos Challenge on Twitch Rivals, or Block Wars Chaos 2, or Block Wars Twitch Rivals 2025, whatever you want to call it. All of those labels are correct. I'm doing an event review for this event the day after the event happened, of course, and there's a lot to talk about. I'm going to try to keep it relatively brief because I don't think it's that necessary to go super in-depth into it because I feel like a lot of opinions have been shared already, but I'll go over it smoothly, as smoothly as I can, because there's a lot. So I want to start by saying that I think this was a good event. Just straight up, I think this was a good event. However, I think for this event, the situation is that the expectations were extremely high going into this event because not only is it a Twitch Rivals event, but also was it a return of Block Wars Chaos, which was one of, if not the most requested format of Block Wars to return ever. And I think the expectation was for this to be like a 9 or 9.5 out of 10 event because of the lead up to this event, right? Having this highly requested event type and having certain teams in, etc. I think people were having their expectations extremely high, and so did I. And I think the delivered event was probably like a 7.5 out of 10, which is still good. I'm still happy with the event, but it wasn't as good as I would have loved it to be if possible, right? So that's the first situation I just want to say, because I'm going to talk about some of the criticism, but I want to just say straight up, this was good. I liked it. I had a good time. My team was really fun. No like negativity regarding that. My team was lovely. They were great, very supportive as well. Like I that was perfect. Most of the teams, from what I could tell, had a great time. There were some teams that had a bit of a worse time, whether it was due to balancing issues or just due to some gameplay decisions not being that enjoyable to them. Totally understandable. It happens. But yeah, just want to say, overall, this was good. Now, let's get into the event details itself. By the way, my VOD is up on this channel if you do want to watch, in case you missed it, because this was on a Tuesday. So yeah, important to note. First of all, this was the Block Wars Chaos Challenge with Twitch Rivals. Took place on Tuesday, December 2nd. These were the teams except for Zam not being there because he slept through, or they slept through, sorry, and JoJo subbed in. So we had JoJo solos instead of Prince Zam. Everyone else did show up and played from the advertised image here. Then I will also say, I have MCC Party 2 pulled up here. I think from everything that's happened, one of the main things that became obvious to me is that this is kind of the same situation as MCC Party 2. It's the last event of the year. It was a sequel to an event that was mostly liked. It wasn't perfect, but it was mostly liked, and people were excited for the return of it. But the delivered event didn't meet the expectation or had a significant flaw within it that soured the experience for a portion of the roster, not everybody, but a very vocal portion of the roster. This happened last time in MCC Party 2, and it happened this time in Block Wars Chaos 2 as well. So that's just the baseline of that I quickly wanted to get out of the way. Now back onto in-game. I think overall, one of the main issues for this event was team balancing. I wasn't as present this time around for Block Wars this cycle. This is by far the least involved I've been in a Block Wars cycle in probably the entire past 2-3 years that I've been working on this event. I think it's been 3. Yeah, it's been 3 years at minimum now. It's the least I've been involved in any cycle ever. So that showed in at least the teams this time around. Because there were some decisions I made in team balancing that definitely shouldn't have happened in terms of balance, at least. I think all the teams were fun. I think all the compositions of teams were good, but there definitely were some flaws in the decision-making in some areas. One big thing that was pointed out on a Reddit post that I do agree with was compared to Chaos 1, I think this roster was too much. Last time in Block Wars Chaos 1, there were there were 3 teams of 4, 1 team of 5 that were all on controllers, 3 teams of 6, and a team of 8 that became a team of 7 and then a team of 6. So pretty much 4 teams of 6, meaning that the average players per team was like 5. This time around, the situation was that there were 2 teams of 5. There were no teams of 4 at all. There were no teams of 8 either, but there was 2 teams of 5. There were initially, I think, 3 teams of 6 and 3 teams of 7. Because red, yellow, and pink were always teams of 7, and green started as a team of 6, and aqua started as a team of 6, and then purple was always a team of 6. Green and aqua ended up getting an extra player, so they turned out to be teams of 7, which meant there was 5 teams of 7, 2 teams of 5, and 1 team of 6. This obviously is not balanced. Like that shouldn't have been a thing. Completely something I should have considered going into this event, but it was an oversight because I didn't get to really put that much effort into it. A lot of this cycle in terms of invitations was a rushed process because not only were there delays on my end, but also on the Twitch Rivals end, which meant that I think we had like 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half to start inviting people properly for this event. Because I was busy, I wasn't able to like properly pay attention to it on a daily basis as well, which meant I kind of just invited like a handful of people every 2 or 3 days, and that became the roster, which meant that some teams kind of just got mushed together to make something make sense, and I still think the resulting roster was good. Again, I like the teams, but it did cause a pretty significant balance issue. For example, and Feinberg pointed this out in his feedback, and he is correct to say this. Out of the 2 teams of 5, one of them ended up having 3 S tiers, and the other had Feinberg, and then the rest of the team. Obviously, that's not fair. Like, that shouldn't have been a thing. So that was obviously a very big oversight on my end. The green team ended up being really strong as well. Initially, before Kuriwei joined the team, it was intended to be a bit of a stronger leaning team, but also some of the people on this team performed way better than they had previously. Bad did really, really well. Ish did really, really well. I think Foolish also performed higher than expected from what I could tell. Jumper, I don't think, had the best recent event performance prior to this event. Kyle was always good. Toby is inconsistent. So this was just a big question mark team in terms of performance. But usually what I do with that type of team is I make it weaker, or not weaker, I'd make it like default balanced, like in the middle, and then it ends up on average going worse than expected. So I was thinking like, hey, if I make it slightly better, it'll probably even out. But this time around it was too much, and it just completely exploded in terms of performance, and they did incredible, of course. But yeah, that was why the green team ended up going a little crazy. Also, people were obviously saying like Aqua Team, of course, winning again is a little interesting. Booster initially was going to play with an anchor. He then pointed out very much that he did not want to do that, even though he opted into it, but that's okay. So I was like, sure, because this is a for fun event, and I feel like letting loose is fine. Play without an anchor. It did end up resulting in the team getting top 2 and winning, which you can say whatever you want in retrospect, but I didn't really think that was going to happen. Honestly, that wasn't really the expectation, but whatever, right? It happens. It's okay. For the rest, I think the teams were fine. I think red team was pretty decently balanced. I think yellow team was a little stronger because I was told that the VR inclusion was going to be a much more significant detriment to people's performance, but it didn't really end up that way. For May it did, but for Rattles it didn't, and that wasn't really properly communicated, so oversight, again, should have checked it a little bit more. Pink, I think, was balanced. Purple was a little weak, but that was because of a substitute that I couldn't really fit. With the circumstances of the team, I needed to get a CSGO person to sub in for Dima, and that's why Seni, of course, joined the team rather than adding another S tier, for example, which would have made the team infinitely more balanced. And that's pretty much everything, right? That's all the teams. So that's the team decision-making side of things. I didn't get to put as much time into it, and that showed. This is one of the most flawed rosters I've made ever. I think in terms of balance, this is one of the biggest fumbles I've ever had, and it came to bite me in the end. It definitely kicked in. You can tell that for sure. So that's the main thing. I also think the proximity chats didn't really play out as well as I would have hoped. I think the the label of Twitch Rivals adds a certain level of competition, and then with the rushed scheduling of people getting to play, etc., and then also on, to be fully honest, a bit of lackluster communication in terms of how to install the mods, etc., that are required for this event. I think it resulted in some people not really properly using the gimmick of in-game voice chat, at least not as much as last time. Additionally, I think having this many people, we had 50 people in this event, I think it's just too much. I think that clogged the voice chat in-game a little too much, and it just didn't make it as enjoyable. So that was a bit of a bummer. It was a thing I was really looking forward to, and it didn't really play out that well. There were some very fun moments, but again, the expectation with in-game voice chat was like a 9 out of 10, and I think the execution was like a 6.5 out of 10 in terms of in-game voice chat. There were some really good moments. Like Lunge for us had some really funny moments, and just in the hub there was some really funny moments, etc. In Spleef there was some funny moments, but across the board I think it didn't deliver to the extent that people maybe expected, or at least I expected, so it is what it is. So that's that. Then on to the games, because some games got some special treatment for this event, and some games were just kind of default. For example, Blitz Hunt, regular Blitz Hunt worked really well. It was really fun. Lunge was also not changed for this event. The detriment here was the different team sizes. It really stunk to play as a team of 5 against a team of 7, especially when multiple teams are swarming you at once, which at some point could be like 20 people nearly just raiding your base, and you can't really do anything about it because you have 5 players. Assuming all 5 of your players are even on defense at that point, like, that was impossible. Definitely a major oversight. Same thing kind of happened with Extraction. There were there was the gimmick of having different weapons every single round. However, I think that experience entirely was soured by just having the different team sizes. Again, most of the rounds, pretty much all of the rounds for the teams of 5 was a 5 versus 7, and that is just unwinnable with the kits that were given for this event, which really sucks. I also don't think this was like the best gimmick to include in this game, but I'll take the blame for that one, because this was very much a last-minute inclusion for this roster. Extraction was not originally going to be in this event. I honestly don't really remember what was originally going to be in this event. Might have been Order Up, I don't remember. But Extraction I don't think really fit. I actually think, maybe contrary to popular belief, I actually feel like Battle should have been in this event over Extraction. I think it would have worked way better. And I don't think it would have nearly been as big of a deal. It would have been still tough as a 5 versus 7, of course. But a 5 versus 7 where it's just 5 players solo versus 7 players solo is way worse than a 5 versus 7, but all the 7s can attack each other at the same time, right? Battle Royale works better than the round robin in this instance. So I think that's one of the detriments to Extraction this time around. Really sucks because it's one of the better blockwars games, and we just kind of ruined it this time around, on accident, of course. I don't think it was like a fully bad implementation. I just think not enough thought went into it, and that is partially on me as well. So yeah. And then Overspleef, I actually think was one of the better games this time around. There was a round gimmick every single time. One of them had like reduced gravity or something like that, and then one of them had speed, and then there was Spleevolution that was reversed, which I think was really cool. I think the Overspleef one was great, fantastic, probably the best overall implementation of a gimmick. Maybe it's either Overspleef or Party, I think, that ended up being the best from the gimmicks this time around. Speaking of gimmicks, Race had item boxes in game, which I think were mostly good. I think some of the power-ups were kind of redundant. Some of the power-ups were maybe a little too much. But I think overall it was positive and potentially could be used going forward outside of a Chaos event. One thing that is important to note that I think was unfortunate about this one was, of course, the vision. Having like interactive player moments in a racing game means that you have to see players more closer to you, and it meant that you weren't able to see the course while you were playing, which was bad. But it's part of the gimmick, so like I think it evens out. I think the item box is at a cool layer of fun little stuff, and then I think the vision was just like meh. So I think it was good overall, but not fantastic. But there's some new stuff that was in this race that could be potentially used for a future event, and that's good. We like that. Now on to Tomb Titans, I guess. This game was not super changed. I think there was like a little tiny bit of change for Tomb Titans this time around, but nothing too crazy. Um, this game was solid. I mean, it's just Tomb Titans. I think Tomb Titans is inoffensive as a game in Block Wars. It's just kind of there, and I don't think it really hurts to be included. Just like a lot of events, of course, have kind of like filler games. This kind of feels like a filler game right now. Unfortunately, so that it is a filler game, but it does feel like one right now. And yeah, Tomb Titans was solid, decent. I honestly didn't think, like, even the different team sizes that didn't feel like it was that big of a deal. I think my team ended up getting like fifth or something in the game, despite doing really well, which is okay. Doesn't really matter. It was also game one, so like the different team sizes wasn't as big of a apparent flaw. And then Party had 8 mini games instead of 4 this time around. It took up 2 full game slots instead of 1, and I think that was cool. It was refreshing, of course, having all these games back to 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 back, maybe to back. I don't know. It's something like that. 8 times, of course, in a row. Not sure if this will happen again or when it'll happen again. If it'll happen again, who knows? I think it was fine though. Like I feel like it was cool. I think the only 2 games that had like a proper change were Heist, which had a new map, which I think was decent. I just think Heist inherently is a bit flawed, which is why it's not in rotation very often. And there was another game, and I don't remember what it was, because there was Crossfire that was unchanged. Splat, I think, was unchanged. Beep Test, which I think was unchanged. Did I say Crossfire already? I don't even remember. There was Go Down, which was left unchanged. And there were other games. King of the Hill, which had a reduced map size and was added to Party for the first time, and I think was cool. I think King of the Hill is a fun refresher to have in Block Wars Party. And I think that's all the games. I would say like Extraction was a very avoidable inclusion for this event. I just don't think that should have happened, at least not with the lack of consideration this time around. That was an oversight. It was a last-minute inclusion because plans originally were different. I can't reveal what it was, but they originally were different. Lunge was just unfortunate. Having the different team sizes inherently was a flaw. I don't think Lunge itself with that was a flaw. I just feel like the Lunge experience was soured a lot with the different team sizes, which is just really unfortunate. It'd be like that. Not really sure. Like this would have never really been prevented. This would have, like, Lunge was always going to be in a chaos event. Extraction was not. So Lunge would have always been a quote unquote problem this time around. Extraction, not so much. But I think overall it was good. Like mentioned, like I think Overspleef, Blitz Hunt, Party, and Race, I'd say were like good. I think Tomb Titans was okay, like decent. I think Extraction and Lunge were meh, like not terrible, but meh. So if you say meh is like a 5 out of 10 or like a 4 out of 10, Tomb Titans is like a 6 out of 10, and then the rest is a 7, 8, or 9 out of 10 probably. Blitz Hunt arguably a 10, but you know that's debatable. I think that this probably lands at like a 7, maybe a 7.5 out of 10. I think this was a good event, but not amazing. Could have been better, but I'm not unhappy with it, at least. So, also there was the finale, Rock, Paper, Scissors. Yet again, kind of a sweep. Not as big of a sweep as last time. Not as iconic of a sweep as last time either. But it is funny to see that the finale ended up being green versus aqua. And I think it was also a first place green team versus a second place aqua team. And then the aqua team pretty much sweeps the green team in the finale of Rock, Paper, Scissors during a Block Wars Chaos event. It's a funny trend. Same way that like red teams keep winning rookies. Clearly, there's currently a pattern in Block Wars Chaos. So if it were to happen again in the potential future, then maybe we'll see that pattern continue yet again. Who knows? Probably not, but we'll see. Anyways, that's pretty much my feedback and review of Block Wars Chaos 2. I think this event overall was good. Again, some flaws. Unfortunately, some flaws that had a very significant impact on some people's experience that really soured the event for them. I will say, I have spoken to some of the players, whether it was on one-on-one or in a general chat, about some of the behavior from this event, and some have apologized, of course, for where it was relevant, for their lack of consideration. And I very much respect that they are willing to own up to their mistakes by themselves without us really asking for it, right? We just got very, very kind messages after the event, with some apologies and just some acknowledgement in general for the effort that is put into these events. And I appreciate that. Very much appreciate that. I don't think anyone from this event really ended up having a genuinely bad experience. I just think some of the bad experiences within this event were enough for these people in the moment to consider this event bad as a whole. But I don't think it was as big of a deal or as bad of a deal as some people make it out to be. So yeah, that's my review of Block Wars Chaos Challenge on Twitch Rivals. I think there's potential to run it back again in the future. Just needs a little bit more time and effort. I also feel like having this event right after the huge event that Block Wars November was of course a bit of a mistake. I think timing wise, there should have been a bit more time going into the event. And it was inevitable with how things were planned out in advance, but in retrospect, yeah, would have probably liked to have a week or two extra in between these events, or just an entire event between these events to kind of space things out a little bit more properly. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you all again for a future Block Wars. I'll make a video talking about the potential future of Block Wars and what's to come and maybe what's not to come in the future, but you'll see that sometime soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.